Good morning again. My name is Jim Dawkins with Alicosoft, the makers of Asta Powerproject. This morning our presentation will be on the top 10 reasons to switch from Microsoft Project to Asta Powerproject. So we're going to jump into our presentation. I'm going to walk through a little of the mechanics, the logistics of our presentation, and then we'll jump right into our presentation for today. So let me just make sure that you can't see just somebody flying an airplane. That's really not as helpful as you think it is. So let's there we go. And one more switch. I'll eventually get this right. All right, let's. As I said this morning, we're going to talk about the reasons to switch from Microsoft Project to Asta Powerproject. So we may have some loyal users of Microsoft Project out there, and I certainly want to defer to the reasons that people might use Microsoft Project. There's some excellent reasons why you might. There might be some reasons for your type of application that you might want to consider Asta Powerproject. So again, today my name is Jim Dawkins. I'm the U.S. Channel Manager for Alicosoft. Alicosoft is the maker of Asta Powerproject, and I'll be joined today and hand off in a moment with Megan DePody. Megan's our senior U.S. consultant. She comes to us with over a decade of scheduling experience, and so we're very, very fortunate to have her on the team. And her experience spans not just using tools like Asta Powerproject, but other tools out there today. So she and also some very practical experience about how those tools are employed or not employed, how they're used most appropriately, or perhaps could use a little work. So Megan can certainly put that experience into play. Before we start, one of the first questions I get is that in many cases, people say, I've never heard of Asta Powerproject. We often talk about how in some parts of the globe, it is the best kept construction scheduling secret. Well, there's certainly lots of contractors that use Asta Powerproject. The Asta Powerproject application has been around for over 25 years. And I think that fact alone surprises many, many folks. We see them at conferences, at trade shows. We hear about it on webinars. We hear about it through emails. I haven't heard of it, and it's been around 25 years. So Asta Powerproject began in the United Kingdom, and it's certainly been deployed across many of the contractors in the UK. In fact, over 92% of the largest contractors use Asta Powerproject. It is the dominant market share leader in the UK, and increasingly that is the case around the globe, particularly in the United States. We've seen a massive uptick in adoption in the United States with some of the contractors you saw on the previous screen. We've got contractors that are not only selecting it on a specific project because of perhaps a project manager's preference, but also because they've decided to adopt it as their enterprise standard. And something like that process requires a great deal of vetting. We've got a number of contractors for whom that is the case. We also have, behind those US users, are many, many more users across the globe. The application has been translated into 7 different languages. In fact, we joke that we've translated it from British to US. but is also in use at 90 different countries across the globe. So I think you'd find outside of the United States that many folks have heard of Asta Power Project, and increasingly that's the case in the US. And in fact, today, the intent is to help explore some of those reasons. Why? Why are people considering it now? One of the reasons is because of the way we operate. The dominant market share leaders in scheduling today, in planning software, are very large software companies. And while Alicosoft is a sizable concern traded on the London Stock Exchange, we're dedicated to scheduling. In fact, we're dedicated to construction scheduling. And we've gotten to the leadership position in the UK and increasingly across other countries because of the way we work with our customers. We can't get better without input from you. And in fact, today, as we go through the presentation, we'll certainly elicit your questions. And sometimes there's functionality that we just can't yet do. And we'd love to hear from you about that. We'd love to make those changes. We have multiple releases per year, a major release once a year, but we have other minor releases during the year to include user-supported feedback. So probably the other most significant reason we're seeing a real uptick in adoption in the US is our customer support through our local solution providers. We've got 10 solution providers across US and Canada, and we're very proud of the fact that they are experts in their field. They do lots of scheduling consulting, not just providing product support. So that means that you get someone that understands your challenges, that understands the things you're facing every day and can help you solve those problems. It's much more than just a product. It's really a full solution for you. So, and in fact, before we go to the next slide, I want to talk about some of the logistics today. With our webinar today, I've got everyone muted, but you can, in the question box in your control panel, you can submit questions as we go. Soon I'll be handing over the presentation to Megan for a software demonstration. That's why you likely signed up. And during that presentation, I'll be monitoring the question pane. I'll gather the questions together, and certainly respective of the time we have, we'll get as many of the questions answered as possible. But please don't hesitate to submit some questions. If we don't get to your question, then we will provide an answer via email. And I'll provide my email and phone number information at the end of this presentation. Part of another reason for signing up for the webinar is that everyone who attended today, in addition to getting any of your questions answered via email, will provide you a link to a free 14-day trial of the software. It's not one of those limited trials. It's a full function working copy. You can produce project schedules, you can save the schedules, and in fact, I want to talk about some of that import, export, or open and close functionality as well. But at the end after the webinar, you'll be provided with that link to download a copy, and we'll provide you with a link to the recording of this webinar. So last month, we talked about why folks are moving from another dominant market share leader in the US, Oracle Primavera P6, why they would move to Asta Powerproject. P6 has been out there for a long time, and there's a lot of great features in P6. And so we talked about a lot of the challenges associated with that, and we suggested that you have a choice. So for some, perhaps another solution might be most appropriate. We like to think that in many cases now, once you're exposed to Asta Powerproject, you'll see that it is often the best solution for you, but you do have that choice. And by the way, that presentation is available via recording. the top 10 reasons why you should switch from P6 to Asta Powerproject. And at the end, I'll give you my email. Just shoot me a quick email and I'll send you the link. You can also go to astapowerproject.com for other content. So some of the questions around Microsoft Project, I mean, often begin with the question of what should I use for construction scheduling? I mean, should I use what has already been provided to me? Certainly that's the path of least resistance. Why on earth would you go to your boss? Why would you go to the IT manager, your purchasing manager, and say, actually, I'd like another software package. I know you gave me one, but I'd like to use something else. Now, not everyone's provided with a package, and so they have to immediately kind of move into evaluation mode. And in many cases, the answer to the short question is, should I use what I already own? In some cases, it's maybe I should take a look at what's out there. And I think a criteria for many folks should be really easy, right? It should be intuitively obvious on how to use it. And in fact, I mean, it should be kind of stupid simple. Anybody could make use of it. And honestly, that is what leads a lot of folks to a lot of products. That a first initial, it's got to be easy. And I think that's an absolutely valid concern. And that is one of our user interface design goals with Asta Powerproject. It should be easy. But is it made for construction? And what does that mean? So there are certain features and functions that are really specific to the construction world. It's really hard to make a product that fits all verticals, that works good for service projects where I'm really focused on just professional services and resources and who's available to do what. I don't have a specific, say, outside contractor that I have to plug in that my electrical is not going to do my mechanical, and vice versa. There are geographic limitations. There are physical limitations based on the designs and specs. So there are many things that are absolutely specific to construction. And it begins in many ways with just the lexicon, the terminology that you're going to use. But you need a tool that will carry you through that whole construction life cycle. So is it important for it to be easy to create the initial schedule? Absolutely. But can you progress it? Can it protect you through the whole life cycle? Are there any gotchas later down that you didn't see because you picked what was easy? Well, those are some of the things that we'd like to take a look at today. And so I'd like to suggest that it is possible to find a tool that's easy to use. It is possible to find a tool that's easy to license. People ask me all the time what the heck I mean by this. Easy to license. Don't you just call a guy and send them some money and I get software? Well, it used to be that easy. And one of the reasons I mention this is that it's easy enough to get a desktop copy for most pieces of software. It's also easy enough to get a subscription for most pieces of software. Both of those are by user. Well, suppose I'm only going to use it now and then. I mean, Outlook I'm in all day. That's a great Microsoft tool. Am I going to be in my planning tool all day? Am I a full-time scheduler? Or am I part-time scheduling? And could I license it? Could you give me an easy licensing scheme that fits that model? It needs to, as I suggested, support you through the whole life cycle. And that includes full critical path support. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means. It needs to be able to grow with you. So if you need to move to enterprise, business intelligence, multiple user functionality, certainly your tool needs to meet those criteria. And then at the end of the day, it needs to meet your owner's specs. So if the owner asks for a Microsoft Project tool and you have Primavera, can you do that? If you have Primavera and it asks for a Microsoft Project file, can you do that? Well, You can with Asta Powerproject. It's not an import-export. We open other file formats and we save to other file formats. Why do I care if it's not import-export? Because there's not some big massive routine with a progress bar that I get to wait through. I just hit save. The licensing, and I'll touch briefly on this and then we'll jump into software, is designed not only to support those folks that like the current licensing mechanisms that are commonly available. Yeah, I want to buy one for my desktop. I do this regularly. I do it often. I want a full copy for myself. But wouldn't it be nice if you could have a casual use license, a concurrent license? You know, I only use it maybe 20% of the time of my time. And there's 3 or 4 people like that in my organization. So why don't I buy a concurrent user? We're unlikely to all be in it at the same time. And would that save me some money? It doesn't save you some money. It makes Asta Powerproject far less expensive than Primavera and even less expensive than Microsoft Project. All right. I think at this point you're probably ready to actually see some software. So I'm going to hand off to you, Megan, and you let me know when you have the power.
Should be seeing my screen now.
I can. Terrific.
Yay! All right. As Jim said, we're going to talk a little bit about how Asta Powerproject is a better alternative than Microsoft Project, and why you should think about switching. First, I wanted to start with talking a little bit about, and reiterating a little bit of what Jim said, but talking about why you maybe started using Project to begin with. A lot of times it's because you get your computer and it's already there. And you think, oh, great, I have a scheduling tool, we'll just use that. I don't need to go ask my boss to pay for a different tool. I don't need to spend money myself for a different tool. It's there. You know, it does the basics, does what I need, so I'm just going to use it. Because it's a Microsoft project, it looks familiar, so you think it's easy to use. You're familiar probably with other Microsoft products, with Excel, with Word, and you think because of that you'll be able to easily pick up Microsoft Project, hopefully with little or no training, and so you think that's a saving there. These are very reasonable reasons to use Project, but they don't really require you to review the appropriateness of it. Once you look closely and get more involved with using Microsoft Project, you'll see that maybe it's not the best option for you. Microsoft Project is designed for quick and easy schedule creation, but it doesn't necessarily deal with progress or changes very well. And as we know, progress and changes happen quite regularly on most construction projects. So having a tool that can do all of the above is very important and can help you save time and money on your project. So I'm going to start showing you how easy it is to create a schedule, which is kind of one of the hallmarks of Asta Powerproject. But then we'll also get into how easy it is to update, progress, and manage changes. And then we'll also finally at the end here look at some potential gotchas or challenges that you might encounter as you start using Microsoft Project and getting more in depth with it. So real quick, I'm going to start from scratch here, create a new project. You have a few options. You can start from just a completely blank slate. If you have an existing project that you want to use as kind of your baseline and start from that and then make some changes, you can do that as well. Or you have templates. These templates that are shown are actually ones that all come with Powerproject when you purchase it. Templates can include everything from sample activities if you want them in there, but also, more importantly, your calendars, resources, costs, views, filters, group and sorts. All of this stuff can be saved within your template, so you don't need to recreate them every time. You can have a standard template for your company that everybody uses when they start a project, and all of that information is there for them to use. So it's simple as selecting a template, give it a name here, and press Create. And this is what you get. There are several ways to create activities. The first one I'm going to show you is actually just straight copy and paste from Excel. I can have any number of kinds of data in Excel. Right here I'm just copying some names and durations. So if you get a list of activities from maybe a subcontractor or superintendent, it's as easy as copy and paste. And there I have my activities with their duration. It created this based on when I created the schedule, I put a start date in of today, so it puts everything as starting today. If I had dates columns that I copied, those would transfer over as well. So as far as data entry goes and creating your activities is a very quick way to get the information in there. I have all this, and I just need to create my logic. A couple of different ways you can create logic in here. One quick and easy way is I can control click all of these or shift click either one. And I can just do link tasks, and it will. Here I'm going to hit F9 to schedule, and it will create a finish to start link between all those activities. I can undo. Another good feature of Asta Powerproject is unlimited undos. So you can undo it as many times as you want. So another way that I can create tasks, which can be very helpful for people who are maybe not newer to scheduling or are used to doing things maybe like even just in Excel and kind of piecing things where they want them instead of using logic, is I can actually draw links between activities. So I can draw a link from the finish of that activity to the start of this one. And I have this info box that pops up and tells me that what task I'm going from the 100% CDs task to the procurement task. Tells me if I have any kind of lead or lag. So again, I can hit F9 and schedule, and it shows it right there. I can also draw from, if I do want some overlap, I can draw links like that. So that's for people who are visual or might not, sometimes it's intimidating to have to type in a predecessor or successor into a column when not seeing it. And this is a very simple way, especially for people who are newer or more unfamiliar with scheduling tools, to get logic in there to see what they're doing and see how they are linking activities. Another way to do it is, again, for visual people especially, or if you're bringing activities in from somebody else and you just, they send you a list of activities with dates maybe. So maybe you get this data from them in a spreadsheet or a list, however. But you want to have logic to it. You want to know that when you update the schedule, when activities change, that there's some effort behind it, some background, so that things aren't just floating out there, that they will update and progress appropriately. So I can just do a shift and select or control and select either one, and right click, select this maintain task offsets. So what that does is it creates links with to keep them how they are in relationship to each other. So this one is start there, one with a negative lag tied to that one. So as I update these, there is logic based on them. It will push the other ones, but keeps those links with the lead lags how you have them drawn. So again, if somebody's unfamiliar with scheduling or isn't really comfortable with terminology or lead lags or whatever, they just say, hey, I know that this is going to start, and when that one's about halfway through, another one's going to start. It's a quick and easy way to link those activities. One further way to do it is we have this link tasks mode, and that is whatever order I click the tasks in, it's going to create finish to start relationships between them. So then I reschedule, and there it is. You can see by my cursor there has the little chain link next to it. You know you're in that link tasks mode. You can escape to go back to your standard selection there. And again, that's just one more easy way that there's a lot of a lot of choices in how you do your work. For people who are familiar full-time schedulers, tend to do it differently than people who maybe are casual users or who are just getting started in scheduling. And Asta Powerproject provides options for both types of schedulers, so that however you are comfortable with it, you can make it work for you. Another way that Asta Powerproject makes it easy to create schedules is we have what's called task pools. And you can create these task pools very easily. But all they are is they're a group of activities. You can drag them straight over onto your schedule. And this is a group of activities. It includes logic. It includes codes. I'll talk a little bit more about what this coloring on these bars is in a little bit. But it can include resources. It can include costs. Any information can be included within that task pool, so that to create a schedule, you can just say, oh, yes, I have procurement in this schedule, so I'm going to bring that over. I have an envelope, and these maybe have your standard activities within them, and then you just need to go and create your logic between them, or modify durations, maybe add some activities or change some activities for your specific project, but you have the basic structure and the skeleton of your project already created for you. This is especially helpful if you're doing things like multifamily work or a subdivision, something that has a lot of recurring things. Rather than create an activity, copy and paste it, whatever, you can create a task pool of it. So as many times as you want to drag it in, you can, every time you need a new unit or a new house or a new build, if you have even just multiple buildings, a new building, I can just drag that over and I have that as a starting point. All right, I'm going to jump now to a project that's already created. But so we're into this project, we've got one created. Inevitably, you're going to face challenges, delays, changes. As much as we would like to think otherwise, construction projects don't all go off without a hitch. Asta Powerproject can be used as a professional way to help you document what you knew and when you knew it. That's something that I think is not easily or clearly shown with Microsoft Project. It can be hard to track updates and changes and to go back and look at what your schedule looked like at a specific point in time. First thing I'm going to show you here is Asta Powerproject works with what's called progress periods. You can see on the left side over here. It's the equivalent of what you might call a data date or an update date. Each of these here is listed is a different date. If I click on it, I can look at the properties. It tells me I can call it whatever I want. So I can call it the date, the month, the week. And this one's showing, okay, update 1 was January 31st. And I could see that it was blue. So these lines up top here are showing the progress for the different progress periods. I can actually turn on lines for each of those periods so that I can visually see when each of my updates happened. So I can see they're done every month. And people say, well, what does it matter, the difference between having it blue on one part, orange on the other? This is a visual, easy way to see how much work was done in January versus how much done in February. Especially you get a long, drawn-out task that maybe gets started and then has to kind of slow down for a little bit because you're waiting at materials or weather issues, whatever. You can show that, yes, this was, an 11-day activity, and maybe 90% of it was done during the month of January. And it should have been done February 1st or 2nd, but because of outstanding issues, it maybe wasn't done until the middle of February. You can show that 90% of that work was still done within the original time frame, and that last 10% just took time. So I'm going to show you here, I have a view that illustrates that a little bit. So you can see that it will track how much % complete was done in each progress period. So I can look and see how much work was done in each month. I can look at it right now. I'm looking at it by percent complete. I could look at it by days. I could look at it by man hours if I'm tracking my resources or costs. I can do all of that by progress period within each task. So you can see how your work was spread out within that 10 days or 20 days or however long your activity is. So baselines here are easy to create. You can have as many as you want. So all I have to do to create a new one is say new, update number 6. I can put a date on it, whatever my update date is, and it creates a new baseline. I can have as many baselines as I want, and they can all be active. I can compare to any and all of them at any point in time I want. So I'm not limited there. And comparing to baselines is easy. Again, I've got a view shown here. These are all within your templates that you create. So this view here is showing my variances. You could also have it showing specific dates for your different baselines. So showing start, finish, and duration variances. This red line here is the baseline that I'm looking at. I can also select and look at any of the baselines that I want to. I could look at all of them at once if I want. Now that's a lot of lines to look at. It can be a little cumbersome, but it's a quick way to also just jump between comparing your different updates. So if you baseline every update, it's really quick and easy to say, okay, I don't care what I was contracted to anymore. I just want to look and see how it changed since my last update or since January or whatever, and it will show them just those right there. So it's quick and easy to jump between things you want to look at. It doesn't take lots of special filters or views or anything else. I can just turn off and on the ones I want to look at. The other, I think, unique thing, wrong schedule here, that you can do is Asta Powerproject is very easy to create histograms that show. You can do charts for resources, for both labor and material resources, for costs, and you can create really almost infinite possibilities of what data you can have within these histograms. I have a really simple one I created here that shows, so allocation is my number of people. So it's showing how many brick people I need currently, my current schedule, versus in my March update. So it's a quick and easy way to see, if you compare your updates and say, look, my first update, I was 3 people. I had a max of 3 bricklayers needed. Well, now we made these, I previously had planned on needing 6, so we actually need less people than I had planned on because of whatever updates we made. It could very easily be the other way around, that, maybe you start condensing activities, or overlapping and seeing what's happening. It could be the other way, that, hey, I was only planning on having 3 people. I only have 3 people, and yet now my schedule is saying I need 6. That raises a red flag, and we know that we need to make some adjustments or notify our subcontractor that they need to get more people on site. So it's a very easy way to visually make comparisons and see what's changing. So now I'm going to show you some of the gotchas once you start using Microsoft Project that you don't really anticipate as being cumbersome or troublesome, but in fact actually take you a lot more time than you think it should, or take away from the robustness of your schedule and the ability of your schedule to show what you want it to show. First one I'm going to talk about is in Microsoft Project, and this was always one of my biggest struggles when I used it, was that it's difficult to format the display how you want it, to look at what I want to look at clearly and cleanly without having to kind of jump through troops, rearrange everything. first thing I'm going to focus on here really quickly is just summarizing. So creating this project hierarchy here on the left with these summary bars is very simple. I can highlight some activities, hit summarize, and it creates a summary bar there. It also creates in the hierarchy. I don't have to do any extra steps. See, I have a summary activity that is summarizing those activities in there. If I have multiples, I can do that. I can also, with the click of a button, indent and outdent them. So I can, this is now, if you look here, a subset of that one. So then I can roll up and see multiple summary bars. I can very easily just go, I want to look at one level. I want to see all my summaries. And there they are. So it's very quick and easy to have it look like I want it to. I can also rearrange these summary level bars if I want to. So I can drag it and say now I want it to be up here, maybe there. And now it has moved up. I can outdent it. I can indent it. So I can rearrange the views however I see fit, even after I've created them. It doesn't change any activities. It doesn't change any of my logic, but I can make it look how I want it to look. I also have a lot of options when it comes to grouping and sorting. So there are some that are kind of created and will come with it. You can create really as many as you would like. So I can do it by subcontractor. That's one a lot of people like to look at, and I want to see what work everybody's doing at one time, at a specific time. So I can look at the whole thing. I can look at one level here, summarize it so I know when each of my trades are working. And I can expand on any specific ones that I want to expand on and look at, see what their work is. It's, again, a quick, easy way. I can easily print that out, expand it and print it out, give it to my subcontractors so that they have a full copy of the schedule, but it's easy for them to jump in and look directly at their activities. We also have filters are, again, very easy to create. There are some, basic ones I can do by code. I can do it by level. This one actually, one unique feature within Powerproject is that I can create filters that will ask me every time. So rather than having to create a filter for my concrete contractor and a different filter when I only want to look at my MEP contractor and another one for if I want to only look at my roofer, I can click on this and say this time I want to look just at my carpenter. Hit finish. There's my carpenter's activities. I want to look at a different one. I can just select concrete. So I can quickly and easily jump between only looking at specific contractors. This could be for any code you have. So it could be for levels, for buildings, for resources, for work happening on specific calendars, because all your tasks and resources can have different work calendars if you want. It's very quick and easy to jump between those. You can also do filters for things like, criticality. I want to look just at my critical tasks. This date range, choose each time. So every time I could pick specific dates that I want to look between, or a straight 3-week look ahead. This Asta Powerproject can deal with things like today. So this filter, if you look at it, we'll jump in here and take a look. So this is going from yesterday to yesterday plus 3 weeks. So it will always be a 3-week look ahead, and it will always calculate it based on your day, based on today. You don't have to go through and change dates and say, okay, I want a 3-week look ahead from August 1st. Now I want a 3-week look ahead from August 8th. And it's always current without having to change or update anything. Another thing I'm going to show you here, I know I talked before about showing all of these different color coding on the different lines. So let's take a look here. So right now what's being shown on these color coding is my code that I have set up for my contractor. I know that because there's a little check mark here, so it tells me what is color coded on these bars. I can color code based on any of my codes that I've created. This comes in very handy because I can quickly and easily see that all of these green activities are assigned to my MEP contractor, which makes sense because this is MEP activities. But I can also see that, wait, these ones are assigned to concrete. That's not right. Or I could easily see that, maybe they're not assigned to any contractor. So all I need to do to change that is I can click on them. I can do it one at a time. I just control-clicked to select multiple of them. And I just drag the correct code over, and they're assigned to that. So it's a visually easy way to see. This red box around it is critical. So you can see multiple things at a time. So I can easily see not only which trade is assigned to these activities, but also what's on the critical path, all at the same time, all visually on the bar chart without having to, add in columns or kind of clutter up the display at all. And like I said, I can do that color coding for any of my codes. I can also drag and drop any of my codes to assign them to activities, even if they're not the one shown. So, if I just want to drag a phase of that, it's going to ask, do I want to start looking at and have it color-coded for phase? I don't. I just want to be able to assign them that way, and it will. So another thing that is difficult to do in Microsoft Project, I have one person that I've worked with that uses Microsoft Project, create their schedule, and they want to show the spreadsheet, the bar chart, and as well as next to each line on the bar chart, they have whose responsibility it is. And in order to print that, it actually ends up being horizontally 3 pages, and then down however many pages depending on the length of the schedule. So you end up getting this PDF of a schedule that is incredibly hard to read and hard to follow and know which page goes with which, and it's very cumbersome. Microsoft Project, it shows what you want to see, and it prints what you do see. There are lots of print options. We have these format buttons that turn off and on what you're looking at in your Gantt chart. So if I don't want to show the critical path, I click it and it turns off. If I don't want to see my relationships, I can turn them off and on. Baselines, I can turn them on and off. So it's very quick and easy to show what you want, and whatever you are showing here, if I go to print, that's what is showing there. And now if I'm getting into print and I start looking at it and I say, oh, that's not what I want, I can do this here, and I can turn these things off and on in this view without having to go back to my schedule. In my print options, there are also borders. You can create custom borders. There are default ones that come in here. You can create just about anything with a custom border. This is Asta PowerDraw. It comes with Asta Powerproject, and you can create borders that direct to project information. So this goes to a project title, the chart title, the date. So any project that I use, that I assign this border to, it will be the information for that specific project. You can include pictures, you can do company logos, you can do separate charts or graphs. If you have data from another source, you can import that and add it in there. It's pretty much unlimited possibilities of how you want to print if you graphically want to show something. So I have some very basic ones in this border here. You can, similar to other ones, you can scale it. So you can, like I was talking about before, how horizontally it was 3 pages. I can horizontally and vertically make it fit to specific numbers of pages. I can turn off and on various legends or borders, the date zone, things like that, and get it exactly how I want to do it. But the nicest thing, I think, is the print what you see. If I get it looking how I want to look filtered, grouped, however, while I'm looking at it, when I go to hit print, it's going to look like that without having to, create print views, without having to do a whole lot of messing with anything. So another highlight here is that it will output to your data to other sources. So if you want to incorporate this into other software, there are several ways you can do it. You can, like we did coming into it, I can, if I want to just copy that activity out, I can easily paste it in there, and it comes through. Columns are a little short here, but it comes through. So I can copy and paste in and out of Excel quickly and easily if I just want to send maybe a list of activities to somebody, or if I have want to incorporate a list of activities maybe in my schedule of values or something, I can copy and paste directly out of it. Within Asta Powerproject, we also have a BI or business intelligence export. So I can export all of my information, you can choose a file it's going to, and I can have it delete, so it's kind of recreate that spreadsheet from the get-go, but I can also have it overwrite only data that matches up. So if there was an existing activity, it would overwrite the new data for that same activity, and then any new ones added in. I can also have it leave it, so it would just keep adding to it, so it would have progressive information. Once I get that, I've got one that I've created here open. Once I get that, what comes out is just a huge dump of activities, of data. We can look at tasks. So what comes through is your effort, percent completes, really every piece of data related to all of your tasks and resources and everything else comes through. So it's a huge data dump, but you can then incorporate it if you have a database, if you have other business intelligence or reporting tools, you can use that. But you can also create, with Excel, you pretty much unlimited types of charts and whatnot. If you're familiar with pivot charts and pivot tables, you can create incredible array of different comparison charts and tools. I have a couple quick, very simple ones that I created here, looking at my percentage of tasks that are critical, looking at my, manpower that are required. So by doing that export every time, I can have it just update the data in these tabs, which would then update these charts, so I can have a current kind of dashboard to look at. But I can also use this to import into other tools if I have them, or to combine it with data from maybe an estimate or something else. All of these options, none of which are available within Microsoft Project. In Project, it's difficult to kind of get information out of Project into other forms. So the last thing I'm going to show you here is that it can be difficult to manage large projects in Microsoft Project. Again, with the grouping and sorting, that's a very easy way to help manage your large projects, clean them up, make them look nice. A couple other things is that in most scheduling software, you spend a lot of time scrolling to find the activities you're looking for. Well, one thing you can do here is within this hierarchy, if I click on something, it will jump and filter and only show me those areas. So it's a quick way, if I'm jumping between activities, I can just click on it and go back and forth from one to another. Another thing I'm going to show you, and actually a really good example of it is right here, is when I have a big project, I might have a lot of activities that are related to each other, and when I print everything out, it might be 50 pages, and that is overwhelming to a lot of people. Well, in Asta Powerproject, you can have multiple tasks per line. So every single one of these is a different activity with its own resources, with its own codes, with its own logic. So I can expand them and look at them all individually. I think I have, so right now they apparently don't have any logic ties to them in this example, but I'll show you ones that do. So I can look and see, it's great for, for procurement for the Mill project. process. Maybe this is create the submittal and send it out for review by the architect and review by the owner and revise and resubmit. And rather than have to print this out and make it this huge process, I can still track each one of these tasks individually for when they start, when they finish, if they're delayed, what they are driving, for predecessor and successor activities. But when I print it out, I can roll it up and see the whole process on one line, which really can, especially on big projects, clean it up, make it easier to look at, easier to print. When I'm specifically looking at these, then I can expand it and print it or manage individually, but I don't necessarily have to do that all the time. Another example of that here, is here with these columns. So this is, this now is putting all those columns on one line. So I can look at the columns or these, slabs all in one line and say, okay, here we're pouring the slab. Here's the 2 different times we're pouring it. And I can, again, expand it. They progress separately. They can have their own logic between them. But it really kind of cleans up and neatens up. And if you have a lot of activities, I can do this, and it really condenses what I'm looking at, but still clearly shows me what I want to see. So I think we're running out of time here, but I think we've really shown you today how easy it is to not only create schedules, but to progress, update, and manage changes within Asta Powerproject much easier, cleaner, and more directly than it is in Microsoft Project. So I will turn it back over to Jim to answer any questions.
Hey, Megan, thanks. Thanks for a great demonstration. So there's a couple of things that popped in, so I'm going to leave you as presenter for just a moment. One thing was a question around custom fields. Are there kind of limits? Is it hard to create custom fields in the tool?
It is very easy to create custom fields. There are no limits, so you can create not only however many custom fields you want, but types of, you could do custom fields that are formulas, actually. They work similar, they're written similar to formulas in Excel, so you can have it do really an unlimited type of computations. But you can also do text fields, date fields, regular integer fields. So any info that you want to get in there, there is an easy way to get it in there.
Okay. And then, while I know you kind of covered it, but it's a lot of information for a lot of folks. So I want to be sure, because the question popped. You showed multiple baselines against a project, and so the question was, is there some kind of limit to the number of baselines, particularly on very large multi-year construction projects?
There is not, and so most, we have a lot of users who do very large, very long projects, and the standard of practice is that you can just create a baseline every time you update, so that at any point in time you can go back and look at your update for whatever progress period you want to see, and you can go back and compare your data to that point in time. So yeah, there is no limit not only to how many you have, but how many are quote unquote live, so you can compare to them at any given point in time.
That's a great point. Different industries have different principles and practices, best practices, and certainly within construction, many folks do baseline with each progress period. It's a way to document and kind of capture the state of the project at that time, without saving another copy and putting a file date on it, which is a very difficult versioning and less substantiated methodology. So the ability to create unlimited baselines, you're not going to want to show them all, as Megan suggested. It can get very busy, but the ability to do that. One other quick question, and this one's for me. We had a question about some of my phraseology when I was talking about licenses, concurrent versus CALs, and certainly Microsoft, for those that are Microsoft users, and certainly the IT folks. Microsoft uses this client access license, CAL methodology. That's still a per seat. That is a per seat kind of license. How many folks will need to access it, and it's not it's not concurrent. It's a cal. So we do offer the concurrent, which means how many folks are simultaneously in the software at a time. You can install unlimited copies of the software with that methodology. And then we're just, when you're going to open a project, we're just checking with the server who is accessing it at the time. It does require a connection to the server at the time. Many construction sites are now all fully connected. If that doesn't work for you or you're concerned about it, you can certainly buy a very reasonable standalone copy. And with our contact information, we can certainly fill you in on some of those license specifics. One last point I'll make, and then we'll need to wrap it up here. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. When we were talking about criteria for selecting a scheduling tool, most often folks quite reasonably ask, what's an easy to use and what's a very functionally rich application? So does it do scheduling well? And in fact, if you look online at the types of functionality, that's where they really focus. Much of what Megan focused on was formatting and printing, and a lot of people look at that as a wonderful nice to have. A schedule is not just a calculation that shows you, are you on track, are you not, how much will we bump? It's a communication tool with your owner. It's a communication tool with your GC. It's a communication tool with your customer. They need to visually understand some very complex logic. And your ability to effectively communicate it makes that relationship a true partnership. And that's why it's important to have those capabilities, to not sit in a meeting and have to scroll off the screen to find some specific task. They say that humans can contain 3 to 5 pieces of data in their mind at one time. If I'm scrolling off the screen, I just dropped one of those pieces. Just not at all helpful. So how do you find out more about Asta Power Project? We've got monthly webinars. Our August webinar will come on August 25th. It's the last Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, where Asta Power Project US is out of the Denver metro area. We also will be at a couple of conferences here in the fall. We take a little break during the summer, let you guys get out and build some projects. So we'll be at CMAA in kind of early mid-October in San Diego, and we'll be at the BIM Forum later in October. We didn't even get a chance to talk about the 4D capabilities within Asta Power Project. We didn't get a chance to talk about risk and earned value. There's lots of great functionality that's available in Asta Power Project. You can find out more about it at astapowerproject.com. You can shoot me an email. Most of your invites came with my response email, comes right back to me. There's also a toll-free number, 855-553-ASTA or 2782. You can give us a call. Megan or I or one of our other solution partners can help you out with some of your questions. As I said, everyone will receive a link to the download free trial, 14-day trial. And a little bit later today, we'll provide a link to the recording. It takes a little while to get it processed and pushed back up online. If you'd like access to any of our other webinar links, please let me know. Thanks so much for attending today, and we look forward to everyone getting a chance to take a look at Asta Power Project. Thanks, everyone.